I sat in that dozer and helped build that pond that summer, and it was like, this is a game changer. This is way more fun to go do than sit there holding a power washing wand all day.
What's happening, Skid Steer Nation? It is your lovely host, Ryan Deemer. We've taken a few-week hiatus. It's January. I needed a little bit of a break. Actually, I launched a marketing company, and I'm swamped. So we just kind of realized we haven't had an episode in a few weeks, so we're getting back on track. Hopefully, we can stay the weekly schedule. We're going to make it a goal, and we're going to stay on the weekly schedule. We'll keep it simple. Our first guest back from our little 2-week break is a gentleman named Jon. He's over in Pella, Iowa. I'm really excited to speak with him. He owns a company called 641 Excavating. And before I introduce Jon to the show, I do want to remind all of you guys 2 quick things. One, the show's literally named Skid Steer Nation Podcast. It's because skidsteernation.com is your home for high-quality American-made attachments for your skid steer. I come from the manufacturing background. We audit, we vet, we make sure these manufacturers hit all of the check marks I would want if I was purchasing equipment. So we've done the homework for you. Guys, the proper tool makes you a lot of money. The return on investment, time savings, less time on the machine, less bigger gaps in your maintenance. It all plays a part when you start looking for the proper attachments for the work that you do on a consistent basis. So when it's time to grow your fleet, please visit skidsteernation.com. Lastly, I just mentioned it a few seconds ago, but we recently launched in December Throttled Up Marketing. The link's going to be in the show notes down there. Guys, if you own a business and you're struggling with some marketing, or you're on the fence about taking that next step and getting that great web presence and starting utilizing some automations, working with professionals that know your industry inside and out as well as you do, now's your chance. Throttled Up Marketing. We only work with excavation and land companies. In fact, every client works with me directly. We guide you through the whole process. No setup fees, reasonable rates on a monthly basis. You can check it out on the website, getthrottledup.com. Links in the show notes. And I'm done doing my plugs for myself. So with that, Jon VanZee, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for being a guest today.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Excited for it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I, man. Like, it's not. I get super excited when I start interviewing guys from like Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa, because I'm like, oh, we're neighbors.
Right. It's crazy how close everybody feels too once you start talking. You know, the whole social media thing brings everybody together. It's pretty easy to all of a sudden reach out and, hey, we're close to each other, but we're far enough away you don't feel like competition. So everybody gets to talk to each other, and you learn from each other. It's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, during my Facebook creeping that I do on all of our guests, makes me feel like your ex-girlfriend, I noticed that you had some like reposts on your personal page about like septic businesses and some other businesses in your area. And I was really excited to see that, because I'm a firm believer that a rising tide raises all ships. And for you to be supporting other businesses in your local area that you could be doing work similar to, I thought that was awesome.
We've always called it a circle, and, you know, it isn't always necessarily a true circle, but, you know, I don't put septic tanks in because I've got a really good friend that does a phenomenal job, but he also doesn't do land clearing, because that's what, you know, we don't step on each other's toes, because there's enough work for everybody, and we all can niche down and grow from it.
100%. And just to add on to that, like, when you get that circle, you basically have like 2, 3, 5 salesmen for your company working for you when you're not working.
Yeah, you know, somebody gets a call to go pump a septic tank, and all of a sudden, hey, I need some dirt work done. Oh, that's cool. I know a guy. Or, you know, I don't do concrete, but hey, I know a guy that can do concrete, and this is who I trust, and I've kind of vetted, and it helps everybody out.
It really does. It's just, you hear all the old timers keep secretive, and the guys cracking it in the industry struggle to find anyone that will mentor them or give them a little advice along the way. And I really think this new wave and by new wave, I mean guys that have started in the last 10 years, right? This new wave of business owners, they see it differently. They're like, man, it's not competition. There's plenty of work for everybody. The weekend warriors and the terrible operators, they'll weed themselves out. We don't need to do it for them.
They always find a way to, like you said, weed themselves out. It's the truth comes out pretty fast, and yeah, it's we're in a small town here. I think there's probably around 10, 11,000 people in Pella, and it just feels like you're not stepping on toes all the time. Still, we have, quite a few excavation companies in the area. But like you said, there's always work out there for somebody.
Yeah, and like you're in a unique situation because while you talk about the town size, like 10, 12,000, what differentiates you from other towns with that same size is that you have a very large manufacturing headquarters in your town. So if you haven't figured it out by now, Pella, Iowa is the home of Pella Windows.
Yeah. Yeah, we have we got Pella Windows, we have Vermeer Manufacturing, we've got Precision Pulley, PPI. They're big into the pulley scene. Just the next town over in Knoxville, we've got Weiler. They're huge manufacturing.
Huge.
So we've got it all in the county alone of where Pella's located. It's just all sorts of job opportunities.
Well, and the beautiful thing about that is when you have headquarters, that means you have executives and high-level managers, and you've got a client base with an income and time restrictions because they're busy, that they see the value in hiring a professional like you to handle any of the issues they have.
For sure.
So that's awesome. Jon, I was reading the survey you fill out before we got on the show today, and I just did exactly that. I chuckled a little bit, but there was something that you wrote that I'm like, I get you're in Iowa, but how do you say this is what I want to do for work? Man, you went from selling concrete supplies to starting a business pressure washing hog confinements.
Yeah, so I actually, if you take one step back before the concrete supplies, I was assistant manager for a marina in the middle of Iowa. So we don't have hardly a boating season, but I did that for a couple years right out of college. I always thought that was kind of funny. You're in the middle of Iowa. You don't really have a boating scene. I grew up farm kid. I had never driven a boat before I started that job. So then to go from that to then concrete sales, which I'd kind of been in the construction industry a little bit, poured some concrete in high school and all that good jazz. And then just got tired of driving. So I actually, I bought the hog washing business, the confinement washing business. I didn't start it. I bought it from a friend. And yeah, it's just been crazy experiences.
I just had to chuckle a little bit because we've got hog farms around us being in the Midwest, and I actually will speed to get past that odor, and that you dive right in and say, no, we're going to go in the confinement and work for these guys. That's what I kind of chuckled at. Like, of all the things you could choose to do, you're choosing to wash pig slop.
Yeah, it takes some getting used to get used to the smell. Again, you grew up around the farm, so you're it's just hog confinement. You're used to it. But washing, the smell of washing it is completely different than the smell of just, the finished barns with the hogs in them.
Yeah.
So, your truck smells that I quit. Once I quit that business, I quit driving that truck. It smelled.
It permeates everything.
My poor wife, I'd come home and I had two set of clothes that I wore just strictly for washing. I got to the hog confinement and I put those clothes on, got done washing for the day, put those clothes in the back of the truck and drove home. But my poor wife, we'd just gotten married and we'd been gifted a washer and dryer for our wedding. And that poor washer and dryer went through the ringer. Hog confinement clothes every day went right into that thing.
Oh, I'll tell you what's funny. Like, my father was a millwright at a factory. He worked third shift, and it was like filthy. Like,
yep.
You blew black stuff out your nose for 10 days, even after when you're on vacation. It just permeates everything. We actually had two washing machines. Like, my mom went out and bought a used washing machine because she was so tired of all the soot, the dirt, the smell getting into all of our clothes. So he had his own washing machine in the basement, just a cheap little thing that did the job for the work clothes.
Yeah, we always talked about doing that. We just never made it to that step. My dad was a heavy construction mechanic for most of my time at home, and same thing. You comes home just covered in grease and oil and dirt and just rolling around underneath it. And, same thing. That if it was bad enough that those clothes went to the laundromat before they came into mom's washer.
Yeah, same principle, right?
Yep.
Same principle. So what made you, so real quick, you're washing hog confinements, pressure washing, cleaning. You've probably got a nice client list. What happened during that business, or what did you overhear? What made you go, there's a market for excavation and forestry mulching in my area, and I want to take advantage of that?
So, in the whole process of washing, I'm cutting out a little bit. You still got me?
You're good, man.
There we go. I've had some internet issues the past couple of days, so I wanted to make sure it was going to work.
It's that hard, cold winter weather. It always does it.
Yeah, every time. Worked great yesterday when it was 40, but today, it's back down to 6. It didn't want to work. But no, the hog confinement washing, just to put it bluntly, I didn't have any business sense running it, and I ran the business into the ground. Had an opportunity from a previous employee that wanted to basically buy it out for what I had left in it. So it was an opportunity to get out of it. But in that time, when we would wash a confinement, so you can only wash a certain amount every day. So we would go in and wash like a 1,200 head barn. We'd wash that in the day. Well, I'd like to get started about 5 o'clock every morning, and we'd be done about 2 every afternoon. And if I didn't have to go meet with, customers or anything else, I had a guy here that I would go operate equipment for. I had kind of turned wrenches for him all throughout high school, just neighbor, family, friend, working for him off and on. When he was building a pond just down the road, he owned 4 dozers and a couple of excavators, and he was building a pond down the road. And he said, well, why don't you come sit in a dozer for a while? And I sat in that dozer and helped build that pond that summer. And it was like, this is a game changer. This is way more fun to go do than sit there holding a power washing wand all day. And so, God's timing, it all just started to fall into place.
Isn't that funny? Like, he puts you where you need to be when you need to be there. Like, hey, let's teach Jon what not to do with a business, with a little pressure washing business where he's not going to really hurt himself.
Yep.
And make him learn those lessons, and then show him a passion that he has for dirt work. And then he can marry the lessons from the pressure washing business with the passion of excavation and actually grow a business that can thrive in his area. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. What I spent on the whole power washing business is less than what I spent on my skid loader this year. It's just crazy. It's like, well, you start adding more zeros to the end of it. It's like, well, I actually know what I'm doing this time. We're going to stick it out and make it work.
Yeah. What do you think some of the biggest lessons you learned in the pressure washing business that you were able to modify or adapt or improve with the new excavation company?
The biggest one is just know your numbers. I didn't have a clue what overhead was, or, I thought I hadn't grown up around any sort of business owners. Both my parents just worked hourly, and I was just tired of driving to a 9-to-5 job. Well, it wasn't 9 to 5, but I'm tired of working an hourly job. So I'm like, I'll just try this for a while. It seems like fun. Well, I didn't know, hey, you're supposed to actually pay your taxes on time, or, you're actually supposed to pay your sales tax every quarter and make sure you're doing it correctly. And all of a sudden you get a bill at the end of the year and you go, oh crap, I wasn't ready for that. And so knowing your numbers and learning how to communicate and find people that actually want to help you. It's you don't have to do it all on your own, which is, the mindset I went of, oh, this is my business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it work. And no, find a good CPA, find a good banker. They're there to help you.
Yeah. I think you have to look at those services as almost like building a team. Because like at the end of the day, they're a fractional employee. Granted, you're paying them an invoice, not a W-2, but at the same point, they're on Team Jon.
Yep.
They're on team 641. So yeah, having an attorney, a banker, and a CPA are critical. That understand your business, understand your woes, can help you in those areas when you need it. I completely agree with you. I learned those lessons the hard way too, back in my late 20s, early 30s in the bar and restaurant industry.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a hard lesson to learn. It makes for some dark times when you're sitting there trying to figure it all out on your own.
Right.
But once you figure it out, now, like you said, to carry it over to this new business, yeah, it's amazing how much more you do, how differently you do things from the start already.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. Like what we did to launch Throttled Up Marketing, even to Skid Steer Nation, was so much more systemized and smooth because there was things I forgot to do at the beginning of Skid Steer Nation that we took care of day one with Throttled Up Marketing.
Right.
And then, the beautiful thing about that is, like, if you're looking at starting, if you've been in business for a short amount of time looking to start a business, go start meeting those CPAs, those bankers, and you're not asking them for anything but knowledge, right?
Yep.
Like, hey, what do I need to be looking for? What areas should I be concerned with? And if they don't give you good answers, they're not a good team member. And the ones that give you great answers, those are the ones you want to hitch your wagon to.
I think it goes a step further too, and bring it back to social media. Of you get in the online forums, and you see people asking, "Well, hey, who do you recommend for a CPA?" It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody local. If you find somebody that's out there that knows their crap, then by all means, they're going to help you out.
Right. Yeah, with the digital world today, I mean, most of us that have bookkeeping software are using QuickBooks Online, which means anyone can access it anywhere in the world.
Yep.
With Google Drive, you could share receipts, documents, and all that through folders. So it's a beautiful time to be alive because we're not limited to the people in our community to help us grow our business. What was it that made you finally say, I'm buying equipment, I'm going all in, betting on myself again?
So that's actually a 5-year span in there. From the time I was done washing hog sheds to the time I actually owned my own equipment. Sorry,
I thought for sure you were going to say hog shit, not hog shed. Sorry.
Nah. trying to keep it politically correct, right?
You're fine. I don't.
Yeah, I get it. No, so when I started operating for that guy, running dozer and skid loader for him, and I kept my LLC from the hog washing business, and just became, for lack of better words, an independent operator, or an operator for hire. And I used that as a time to learn. I'm going to go sit on a dozer for him. Ended up working for him most of the time for 5 years. Did a couple little stuff here on my own, and then operated for a couple other guys here and there. But just use it as, how to bid a project, how to run a dozer, how to run an excavator, how to, run the skid loader and stuff like that. And here in the last year, we finally came to a point where, we didn't work out anymore doing it how we were doing it. And that was the push of, God said, here's the door, go do your own stuff. You know what you're doing. You're never going to, unless I had that push, it was always just going to be keep cruising. I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to go do that, or, going out and buying a $150,000 dozer always seemed so scary. It's like, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. All of a sudden last year I got the push of, no, you're going to go do it. You're going to buy a skid loader. You're going to buy a mulcher. You're going to go rent this big excavator for the year and figure it out.
How did the first 3 months go when you finally went out on your own? Like, did you come out of the gates swinging, or was it a slow start?
It's funny. I was going through my books, kind of writing that all down of how I thought it went financially versus, in my head, how I thought things went. it went better than, looking back, it went better than I thought it did. You know, I had a couple jobs lined up where I could rent equipment right out the gate and just go while I was still waiting on the financing to come through on my own equipment. And then, I bought the skid loader and mulcher I bought in July of last year. And within a week of owning it, I had a call from a guy that had found the ad on Facebook for the skid loader that I'd bought. And he said, "Hey, I heard you bought this." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I wanted to buy it and obviously it was too late. How about you come down and clear 100 acres of property for me?" It's like, okay, yeah, I'll be there next week. And so it was, once the foot hit the gas pedal, it was just go. It went way better than I expected.
That's phenomenal. And I noticed, like, I mean, granted, you actually theoretically started this company last year, but early 2024, even though you didn't get your equipment, but you were doing work for yourself in the first quarter,
641 was formed back in 2023 as we started to pick up some rental jobs and some small jobs here and there.
And like, I just kind of noticed you're still 100% running on word of mouth, local contacts, and Facebook, correct?
Yep. I mean, we have the website. Everything advertising I've done myself. You know, I haven't paid anybody to make a website. I haven't paid anybody to do any SEO stuff.
What's been the best form of lead generation for you? Is it through Facebook, organic, paid, network?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. It's always word of mouth, man.
You can't beat it. You go out, do a good job. I've picked up some good stuff from Facebook. Nothing. I shouldn't say nothing. I've picked up some decent stuff from paid ads, but it's always just been, "Hey, I heard you did so-and-so's project. Come do mine." Or, "Hey, I drove past and saw you working. You know, I throw just a little yard sign up when you're working. Saw your sign, looked you up on Facebook. Come do this." It's word of mouth has always just been the best.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, like, that's one of the things we talk about all the time with these, like, especially the guys we work with in the consulting side of it. But when you're working, your equipment draws attention. Like, you don't need to have a massive 10-foot banner, but like a yard sign, like, let people know who's there and a phone number. You know, if they want to stop and take a picture of it or look it up later because they can remember your business name. But I mean, you've got to make sure that people driving by, walking by can see who you are when you're actually doing projects.
It's even crazy. You know, I've had it before of they necessarily don't hear the equipment running, but they'll hear a backup beeper. So they come to see what's going on because they've heard it for the last 4 hours. And all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were back here doing this." It's like, yeah. And like I said, then they see the sign and it's just, and it maybe they're not a customer, but you know, their in-laws are, or their brother's going to need something done. And it's just, you're always displaying your work somewhere. So that's the best form of advertising I've had.
I can't disagree with you on that. I mean, I think cementing yourself in a community, growing that network, remembering that even at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday, you are an extension of your business. Would you hire you after a dozen bush lights? Yep. You know, like, you can never get away from who you are as a business owner in your community. And that perception that people have of you is what either gets them to refer you to friends, family, neighbors, or doesn't.
You know, at the end of the day, we're running equipment, we're operators, whatever, but it's still, we're a service business. We're still have to deal with people. You know, it's
100%. And like John, I always say you're a solutions business because people call you with a problem and it's your job to provide a solution. And that's why I love having a network, because even if you can't fix it, you can still provide a solution, which makes you valuable to that customer when you refer another business in your area to help them out.
Yep. Because then when they need something that you actually do offer, you're their first call.
You are, because you took care of them, and people don't forget that.
Exactly.
Unless it's the lunch lady, then they only remember what they did wrong.
Yeah.
I always thought that was funny when I heard that. Yeah, and I just love it. Like you've picked out a little niche. Like sometimes these surveys, guys fill out like 20 different services they do, and you're just like land clearing, forestry mulching, which in and of itself is like forestry mulching is a part of land clearing, so it's really one service.
Yep.
Driveway repair grading, one service, and then site prep building pads, one service. And like, hey, we're going to do these three things. We're going to do them really, really good, and this is the lane we're going to stay in.
Yep. It's I don't want to have to go out and learn a new thing because I do, but at the same time, it takes away from what I can be doing. I'd rather have some continuing education on making my services I offer better and doing them to the best ability that I can serve the customer. Whereas if, I'm a mile wide and an inch deep, I'm not helping anybody. But if I can be a mile deep and an inch wide and help who I need to help and do it correctly, that means more to me.
100%. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to think too long about it. Just gut feeling, top of the head response. First time you ever ran the forestry mulcher for yourself and took a project down, like how long do you think it took for you to actually clear an acre of property the way that the customer wanted it?
That first day was rough. You're sitting there trying to figure the machine out, You don't.
How long does it take you now in comparison to that first month?
Half the time.
So that's the difference between going a mile deep versus a mile wide, is that you get so efficient that you nobody can do it faster than you. And then you can start paying for that. It's like septic systems. If you do 2 systems a year, it's going to take you they just take you forever because you always forget the little steps, where if all you do is septics, these guys are in and out in a single day.
Yep. They're the ones that do it all the time. They're set up. They've got the truck with all the fittings. They've got all the pipe on hand. They don't have to run to the hardware store 17 times a day.
Nope. The operator knows what the operator needs to do. The laborer knows what the laborer needs to do, and in what order it all needs to be done. And the name of the game in any business is efficiency.
Yep.
Because if it takes you 4 days to do a project that you now do in 2 days, all that's doing is chewing into your profit margin.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, that's like the back to your question about how long it took originally. I don't enjoy charging hourly for forestry mulching just because it's hard. You never know how long the project's actually going to take. I feel like the customer's always trying to nickel dime you of, oh, I need you for this many hours and I want you to actually run for this many hours. Whereas, you pay me for the project. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get it done as fast as I can to the standards that I would want my property to be at. And we're going to move on. But, you learn the ins and outs of, like you said, originally I'd go up to a 6-inch locust tree and it'd take me 10 minutes to get it completely chewed up how I thought it needed to be. And now it's like, well, if I come at it from this angle and knock over the top first and then work around it and don't mulch everything up into a pile, I can be in and out of there in 2 minutes for a big tree.
Right. So you get better at doing that, but you also get better at recognizing, the different, oak, pine, locust, maple, because okay, this property is going to probably take me 20% longer than the last one I did because the last one was softwood.
Yep. Yeah.
You can bid accordingly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's back to we talked about, you said you're a service business. I said, no, I think you're a solutions business. And that's where bidding comes in. I will never change my mind on this. And if somebody can make me change my mind on it, I will. I don't know what I'd do for them, but I'd high five them, hug them, whatever. But people have a problem. You're providing a solution. They want to know exactly what that solution costs. And if they see the value in that number, they're going to say yes to it. Where, so a single price bid maximizes your profits versus an hourly, half day, full day rate, any of those. Because you could charge more because you're solving their problem. And if they see the value in it, they're going to think it was a great deal. Like, value's in the eye of the beholder, right?
100%. You know,
don't protect your customer's wallet.
No. And it's funny you say that. I had an old boy, used to own a trucking company. He passed away last summer, but he would always tell me, charge until you feel like you're screwing the customer over. And he goes, and then add 10%, and odds are you're going to break even. He's like, when you're worried about screwing somebody over, he goes, if that's what you're thinking about all the time, he goes, you're not going to make the money.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to screw them over if you're providing the service you need to.
I heard the same philosophy, but it's worded is say the number, right? The number just below that makes you laugh.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
You know, like if you go to a project like 15 grand, all right, 13.5. Like, we're not going to laugh, but like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's right below what you think they're laughing, because it's your job then to provide the value and show them why that number is justifiable, right?
Yep.
And people love that. Matt Hobbs, I'm sure he's listening. He finally started doing some bidding on a project base instead of half-day, full-day rates. And he called me up. He's like, dude, it's the most profitable single day I've ever had. I'm like, yeah, because the customer's getting what they want, and they don't have to worry about if it's a half day, full day, 2 days.
Well, then there's some peace of mind to it. You know, you're not sitting there like, okay, my equipment has to be running for a full 8 hours so the customer doesn't come up. Because I've had customers before show up and be like, oh, you've only been running 4 hours today. Well, yeah, but I had to go get your fence wrapped out of my that I wrapped up in my mulcher, so that's got to account for it. And, you know, there's a fuel up.
Now you got to justify your time. Now you're just an employee.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why when you start doing hourly, half-day, day rates, you're capped at what you can make in a single 8, 10, 12-hour period. That's literally definition of being an employee.
Yeah.
And if you're an actual business owner, it's either hire more people and have a cap or figure out a better way to do it.
Yep.
And project-based bidding is the way to do it, specifically for residential customers. I know there's going to be guys out there saying, well, my contractor requires, I'm like, I get it. It's not 100% one-size-fits-all solution, but it fits a lot of solutions.
Right. And you've got to know it. You know, you working for your neighbor down the road that you've known for the last 20 years, you're not going to just say, hey, it's $5,000 for that project. It's going to be, hey, you know, you come help me with my snow in the winter. I'm going to help you out for this project real quick. And that's completely
I'll tell you
different.
what, I listened to a guy, and it was on a different podcast, and his philosophy just resonated with me. And he goes, it's either free or full price. Like, if my mom needs this done, it's free. Or if she needs it done tomorrow, then she's paying full price. Like, we're never going to negotiate the value of the work I do. They're either going to pay for it or I'm going to give it to them. But I don't do any of that stuff in the middle. Like, where you're doing a trade, so it's still full price, right? Like,
right.
But it's like, oh, it's my neighbor. I'll come down and do it for $1,000. Because you go do it for $1,000, that's when the shit breaks down, or you blow a line, and you're like, now it costs you $5,000 to help them, and you're like, this was the worst idea ever, right?
Always.
Where if you do it for free, he's like, well, man, let me help you out with that.
Yep. I like that.
Yeah, it's free or full. And he goes, and it's exactly how I tell my friends and family too. He's like, what would you charge me? He's like, it's either free or full price.
Yeah.
And if it's free, it's when I have time to do it.
Yeah. I like that.
I always thought that was a cool philosophy. And it was like, and I'm a big fan of processes, right? And a system.
Yep.
Like, that's not emotional. It's a system put in place. It's either it's not negotiable. It's a system.
Yeah.
And the less things that we can make that we have to think about or have emotions in, the better business owners we can be.
Oh, when emotions come into play, that's when you start losing money.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Every
100%.
time.
Speaking of losing money, you said the worst part about being a business owner is breakdowns, because it feels like the end of the world. You've had to have had a good one if that's how you feel about it.
Well, in the last, what are we, January 23? In the last month, I had a hydraulic cooler go out on the skid loader. And the week before that, I had the def header go out on the skid loader. And then I had some hydraulic lines blow. So yeah, it's just one of those things you just feel like it's never ending.
Well, hopefully, like deaths, they come in threes and you're done with it.
Right. But
yeah,
it's, and it's one of those things that I'm not a mechanic by any means, but I can turn wrenches. So I can pull it in the shop and drive up to John Deere and pay Mother Deere's price on the new parts and put them back in and get on the road because, yeah, it seems like a lot of money when you got to go buy parts these days, but every dime you're spending just gets you back going that much faster because when you're broke down, you're not making any money.
Right. And this literally goes back to what you said, know your numbers, right? Like you should have a buffer built into every job that's going in for maintenance and repair.
Yep.
If you're not adding that into your bids or your hourly rate or your day rate, like if you refuse to switch to a bid rate and you still want to do it the old school way, that number still should have hard costs, payments, insurance, fuel, grease, like hard costs. It should still have your overhead costs. It needs to have like your maintenance, track replacement, repairs, like all of that should be a percentage. Like on average, how much do we spend a year on maintenance?
Yep.
How many days a year do we work? Great. We need to make X amount of dollars a day for maintenance and repair. That's a hard cost. It's not emotional, right? Like these numbers get fit and then we figure out the percentage of profits we want to make per job, or we can increase that on specific jobs or problem customers we don't want to do work for. But those hard numbers need to be known so that you can at least cover all your bases on every job and not look back going, crap, I lost money.
Well, and it's not even the equipment, but your truck to get there and your trailer you're pulling every day, it's
all
you got to
built into
recoup
it.
for all of that. You got to have it built in because when all of a sudden you need tires on the truck and you're sitting there scratching your head going, well, how am I going to afford this because I've maxed everything else out?
Right. And I always look at guys all the time. I go, listen, they ask me, I get asked a lot, like, how do you figure out your numbers? And I'm like, it's not a science. Open up a spreadsheet, take out a notebook and just start writing down in 3 different columns. Like this, like if nothing leaves the yard for 30 days, what money goes out the door?
Yep.
That's a hard cost, right? Insurance still gets paid even if you don't work. The machine payment gets paid. That's a hard cost. What's the variable costs? Like when I do operate my truck, what's my operating cost per day? Like how much fuel does it use? Like how often do I do oil changes? And it's just simple, basic math.
Yep.
And then the same with like what was the third column we just talked about? Like we're service repair and all that. Like how much on average do we spend a day? How many days a year do I work? I need to be making $30 a day, $50 a day. So I can cover these maintenance, repairs, oil changes, track replacements, whatever that number is. If you just do that simple thing, you're going to be in the ballpark. I would bet you're within 5%, 10 worst case scenario of what the actual numbers are. But I'd also say you're going to be in the top 2% of business owners for small excavation companies because most people don't do that.
Well, and then it goes a step further because we're talking about project bidding. That number, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can come in here. And maybe we're in the winter where it's slower months and everybody's hurting for work. Well, I know that number to a T. I can come in here and do the job for less than I probably would do it if it was June or July. But I still know that at that number, I'm making a profit to cover what I need to cover.
And I can conserve cash flow.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, well, now I still have some money coming in. I'm still making enough to cover all my expenses, keep my family fed. Is my profit margin as high as it would be in the summer? No, but now I know my numbers well enough that I can play ball and bid with the big dogs.
Well, not only that, but like if you're consistently doing forestry mulching jobs and you know your hard costs and you figure a project's going to take you 3 days, you take that daily number you already figured out, times it by 3, multiply it by that, you can give a dude a bid in 30 minutes.
Yep. Exactly.
Talk about efficiencies, right? Why go home and spend 3 hours writing it out and calculating out? Like you should already know the numbers.
Yep, 100%.
And in that point, you could, in your situation, you could actually text your wife and go, hey, can you go to the computer? This is the day rate. This is this, and throw up an estimate real quick. Now you can actually delegate work to office managers, wives, partners, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Now you're a business owner, in my opinion.
Right. Well, and that's where your systems come into play. And I've always had QuickBooks ever since the hogwash. So, I've kind of, I didn't use it well at the beginning, but now all of a sudden you figured out, okay, well, forestry mulching, I know that this is my day rate. I'm going to put it in here so I can quick make an invoice or an estimate right within 5 minutes of talking to the customer and have it to them there yet that night. Now you're into the ball game of they're not waiting on Timmy down the road to come in and write something down and then he's going to mail an invoice. It's all back to the faster you are, the more efficient you are, and that comes down to bidding too. If you can get the bid there the fastest and look professional
100%.
about it.
And if you guys are using QuickBooks and you're doing your invoicing through that, part of your daily numbers should be that 2.5-3% for credit card processing.
Yeah.
And I would beg my customers to pay with a credit card because that means I don't have to spend any minutes, hours picking up checks, driving to a bank, because that time's more valuable doing work, prospecting for leads, maintaining equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, the QuickBooks makes that so simple. They pay right off of their email and it's in your bank the next day. It's so
But everyone's like, oh, it's 3%. I'm like, build it into your cost.
Yeah.
Just pass it along.
Yeah. Well, and that 3% already just, that's what you would have spent on gas and time to go to the bank.
100%.
I agree. When you go to town to go to the bank, you're never just stopping at the bank. You got to make 3 other stops. So next thing you know, you've wasted 4 hours.
Right. All to save 3%.
Right.
No, I 100% agree. My mind's rushing too fast because something you said right there had me going into a thought, and now I just lost it. Always using QuickBooks, 3%, pay that, don't go into the bank. I don't remember what it was now. But yeah, it's back to, it just makes sense to me, like build that number in. And if they don't pay, if they want to pay with a check, you just increased your profit 3%. Or you can offer them $500,000 cash discount, which is equal to the 3%. So you're still making the profit margin you need to make, that you want to make as a business owner.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, this is my favorite part, is like finding little, like we actually were working yesterday with a guy and it's groundbreaking growth, and he's paying his guys a full day's work, even if they finish a project early. I'm like, I love that. I love the concept, right? Like, hey, if you guys are efficient at your job and we had this booked out at 3 days, you get done early, I'll pay you for the full 3 days. But like, I just like finding little ways to like be better. I'm like, change that from hourly rate for the hours they're physically not working into an efficiency bonus and calculate that bonus per job. Because now you're not, that's all those hours that you're not getting actual work out of them.
Right.
That work comp is looking at and still charging you per 100 hours.
Right.
They don't charge bonuses for that. They only charge actual hours work. So we can reduce your work comp expense annually a little bit, not a lot, but if we can find 20 areas that you can save 1% to 2%, what's that do to your bottom line?
Yeah. Which, now the employees are still happy because they're getting rewarded for being efficient. But then as a business owner, that little bit, everything helps.
And then here's the other thing, John, that I told him, like if guys are doing that, paying full days, turn it into a bonus for 2 reasons. One, save on work comp. I have to double check. I think you also save on like federal taxes because it's not an hour. Don't quote me on that. But I think that way you can do that for work comp regardless. 2, their paycheck now has a line item called efficiency bonus.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know what that makes them want? A bigger number at the end of the line that says efficiency bonus. So subconsciously, without you bugging them, they're going to want to be better and faster because they love the word bonus and they feel like they're winning.
Yeah.
So psychologically, having an efficiency bonus is going to make them work harder, faster, smarter in the long run.
Yeah. I did kind of similar one in the hogwash of I always had at least one employee at the time that we would do per pig space wash. So, you walk into a hog barn and it's either 1,200 or 2,400 head. And I would pay them, around 12 cents per space wash. So, hey, if you get this barn completely washed in 3 hours, you're getting paid the full amount. But if it takes you, 8 hours, you're still going to get paid that same amount. So but it made them more responsible for their work.
Yeah, like this is the fee you're going to get for cleaning 1,200 head stall.
Yep.
Take an hour, take all day.
Yep.
I love it. Because it also weeds out the slackers. Like you're going to figure out real quick, like who's not good at it. And then like, we got to replace Jimmy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. You got a couple part-timers that help you out. So like you're not just a full, complete one-man band, even though you operate that way most days. How's that work?
It's been fantastic so far. I've got a gentleman that he's retired, has a couple skid loaders of his own that doesn't advertise, doesn't try to get out. He doesn't really try to pull in a lot of work himself. But he's always looking to do something. And he's one of those guys that you say, all right, this is what we're doing today. Here's the skid loader. Here's the location of the job site. I'll come check on you. You know it's going to be done. You know, and
that's awesome.
He's been phenomenal last year and it doesn't matter. You know, we built a huge retaining wall. He was there helping. I haven't had him mulching, but you know, we were putting tile in one day and he's just backfilling trenches for me. And it's just stuff like that where you know he's done enough of it himself. He owns the equipment himself that he's not going to go beat on it. You know, the one thing I can't stand is when somebody comes up to you and says, oh, I can run everything. I've ran this, and this. I know how to run it all. Odds are I can tell right away that you're going to be the first one to hit something.
Well, and I'm always like, I can see you're real good at running your mouth. So
exactly. But you know, I found a couple, and I got another guy that's been helping me on some Saturdays and stuff too. That he wanted some extra income, and it's like, well, yeah, go run the equipment because you know whatever day that you're running it, I can go knock on doors or go do other stuff, and you know I don't have to worry about finding 5 days a week work for you right now in the first year, but let me that one day that he can come run that just that much more.
Yeah. And I love what you just said there too, because it's like, we only have 24 hours in a day. Like the same as I always say, the same two people, same as Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, man. And look what those guys did with their 24 hours a day. But you just kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like, you have to leverage time. And if you got somebody that you can put a machine to go do work so that you can go do admin work, you can go knock on doors or do marketing campaigns or, you know, meet with a CPA to become a better business owner, that's leveraging time because now we're getting work done, twice as much work done in that period that you don't personally have to do.
Yeah. I remember the first Saturday I let him. We were doing a mulching project behind my house for my neighbor, clearing out some cattle pasture. And he had never he's ran skid loader, done construction, all that, but he had never ran a mulcher. And I'm like, you know, I've told this to other, you know, I've taught a couple other kids how to run equipment. And I tell them, as long as that thing stays on its tracks upright, there is nothing you're going to do that I can't fix. It may take longer. We may lose some money, whatever, but go learn it right, screw it up a few times because then we can teach you how to fix it from there. But, you know, I turned him loose that Saturday morning. I threw my son, I got a 3-year-old son, I threw him in the truck. We went and shot some drone video of him working, and then I just, you know, got to hang out with my boy because he can't ride in the skid loader all the time with me. And so now you're doing the family thing while still making money.
Welcome to business ownership, John. That's the beauty. Like, that's why we do it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I started Skid Steer Nation, because I want to be able to make money 24 hours a day. And the only way I could figure out how to do that was to start an online store that was open 24 hours a day.
Yep.
So it's like, it's all about building. Some people haphazardly fall into it the correct way. Some people have to learn it the hard way, and some people never learn it. I had to learn it the hard way. But you have to design the life you want and build the business around it. Otherwise, the business will become your life.
100%. 100%. And that's the thing my wife and I talked about the most leading up into this is we're all about building a legacy. And that was actually that's kind of where the 641 name came from. Of I didn't want my name on anything business name wise. I wanted something that I can build, the public can see it, everybody sees it, and then if my kids want to buy it or come into the business someday, awesome, it's there for you. But if my kids say nope, we're going to go do whatever else we want in life, we don't want anything to do with Dad's excavation company, cool, now I can sell a business that doesn't have my name on it.
Right.
But I still structured it around building it how I wanted to so my family can succeed with it.
Smart. And if anyone's curious, the 641 is the area code in his county. So,
yep, trying to show
tied
that
it into
area
that.
of work.
Yeah. There's a guy here. I think there's only, as far as I'm familiar with, there's only one guy in my area that did that. It's 309 Paving. And I love it because it's memorable. Like everyone knows the area code of the area you live in.
Yep.
So if all I got to remember is the one word after that, and now I can associate paving to 309 is like, 641 excavating. Oh yeah. Call that 641 excavating. Like they don't have to think of like, what was his name? Who is he again?
Yep.
I love it.
And the other thing too is service area. Everybody's like, well, how far you want to travel? What's your area code on your phone number? We'll go there.
Anywhere in the 641, man. I love it.
Yep. Simple.
Yep. Yeah, that's perfect, man. I like that a lot. I always want to wrap up, be cognitive of your time. We've been talking now for about an hour, so I thank you very much for that. I don't know how we ended up with a question on there, but I was like, if you could ask one question during the interview, what would it be? And you're like, what's the number one thing that you see small excavation companies doing that hurts their business? And how would you guide them to do it better or to fix it? Oh, I think that's a pretty wide open question because there's so many areas of business that could kind of affect that.
Right.
If I was going to say the one thing that hurts a business the most, I'm going to say it's two-part. One, we've talked about it 3 times on this episode of this conversation, is know your numbers. You can't make a profit if you're not even in the ballpark of what it costs you to run your business. But 2, systemizing and finding a way to either delegate or automate some of your marketing efforts. Because I just see so many young businesses, they go all in on Facebook.
Yep.
They spend money, they post like crazy, they do ads, and next thing you know, they've got 5 or 6 jobs. But guess what they're not doing while they're fulfilling the work on those 5 or 6 jobs? They're not.
Yeah, once they get the jobs, they don't line up the next ones.
They don't line up the next ones. So you have to find a systematic thing that works for you, whether it's Google, Yelp, fill in the blank, right? But what's one avenue that can consistently generate the number of leads you need to operate your business at a profit? And then how do we maintain it so it steadily always does it? Because you still need to be generating leads in business while you're fulfilling work for other people.
Right. And it's so easy anymore with the technology we have. I personally, every Sunday I sit down and I open up Chat GPT and say, write me a week's worth of business posts. And then I'll tweak them how I want them, but anymore it's so close to being what I would word them as because it's always learning.
Because it's learning from you.
Right. And then you go into, Meta Business Suite and you can sit there and schedule out the next week's worth of posts and you hit one button and next thing you know, you don't have to sit there and post for that whole week, which if I remember correctly, I was listening a little bit about your new, would you throttle up, kind of having some marketing.
We've got scheduling tools in there, but the nice thing about that is you could also schedule to TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn.
Right.
But it's the same principle. But even with all the guys we work with at Groundbreaking Growth, the best friend you can have as a business owner is learning how to time block and then stacking like-minded tasks together.
Yep.
Like you can't go from being creative, writing all of your social media content and finding the pictures to auditing your balance sheet in QuickBooks and then go back to being something in a creative mindset, whether it's designing a new t-shirt. Like you're asking your brain to use different parts of your brain. So finding like things that stack together. Find out when you are most focused. Find out when you're most creative. Just figure it out. Like take notes how you feel throughout the day. And if like I personally start getting mentally unfocused at like 2:00 in the afternoon. So guess what I start doing about 2 PM? Email responses, things in QuickBooks, things that are just tasks that I need to do.
Just the day-to-day mundane stuff.
The repetition, I know how to do them. I just don't like doing them. I do them when I'm already slowly out of my creative deep work session. So I'm super focused in the morning. Like I get laughed at because I could literally get out of bed, take a piss, brush my teeth, and sit at my desk and crank out 4 hours of work. No coffee, just nothing, and I'm just rolling.
Yep.
But that's I know that about myself, so that's my best time to work.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, though, it's key to know that.
It's just awareness, right, of yourself, your surroundings, the people. Just always be aware.
Yep. And it all comes back to your efficiencies. Because if you were to go do QuickBooks in that time where you're, most in focus, it's not being efficient use of your time.
It would stress me out. It would actually mentally drain me. And then the rest of the day, I'd have no ability to do complex, deep work tasks to help my business grow.
Yep.
And I think, the other thing that I had to learn the hard way, it's easy to hear people say, oh, do the deep work, the things that matter most. As a business owner, you're like, what the hell is that?
Which one?
Well, that's not, but again, no, I think it's even more of like clarifying what is it, right? Like if you're getting ready to hire a new employee, deep work is, do we have some sort of a manual? Do we have a work agreement? Do we have the resources he needs? Because like that's the deep work to make setting him up for success. It's not, oh, John emailed me, let me get back to that, and then I'll go do that later. Like John's email can wait till later, right? So it's like finding certain time in the day or the week. You guys are out on the road all day during the day, so sometimes it might have to be late at night, early in the morning, or a weekend. But like blocking out time. Does this make my business better next month, next quarter, next year? If the answer is no, it does not go in the deep work bucket.
Right.
Like, hey, I don't have a Google business profile created yet. Don't rush through it because that's going to work every day, every quarter, every year. Find a space, block out the outside noise, do the deep work on that one thing, and get it off your list.
100%.
Right? If you don't have a morning checklist for your crew or for yourself and you keep forgetting tools, find the time, block out the noise, write a list of everything, whether it be by job type or daily, like whatever it is, build those processes. That's deep work because it makes you a better business owner.
Well, it's just, you're teaching everybody that much more. When
people ask me, like, what do you put in your deep work bucket? That's the kind of work I put in my deep work bucket.
Yep. 100%.
Scheduling a podcast interview does not go in my deep work bucket.
Right.
Is it important to me? Absolutely. But it's just understanding what category it goes in. Yep.
Being a good steward of your own time.
It's all got to get done. But we tend to procrastinate on the most important tasks because we perceive them as the hardest. And we do the easy tasks to satisfy ourselves to say we did stuff today anyway.
Yep. And then you finally go do the hard one and you get done. You go, well, why did I put it off? That's stupid. It was easy.
Or you feel amazing that you got through it and you're like, God,
right.
I could have felt like this last month. I've been stressing over it for a week. And
you get such a rush from it.
And listen, it's easy to preach that stuff. I'm telling you, every week there's something I procrastinate on that when I get around to doing it, I kick myself for it. And I just again, it's improvement, right? How long did I procrastinate versus how long did I used to procrastinate? Am I improving? Am I getting better at it? Because I'm never going to be perfect at it. I know that.
Yep. Well, that's just human nature.
It's 100%. So, progress over perfection, man. Always celebrate progress.
Yep.
So that's awesome, man. Well, Jon, this has been an amazing call. I can't thank you enough for taking time out and joining us today. And
yeah, thanks for reaching out. It's fun.
Sharing your story and your family, talking about your family, your businesses, your experiences. And I love your mindset as a business owner. I like your approach to a lot of things. And yeah, guess what? There's going to be hard days. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be stumping questions. But I think you're equipped to work through that in your own process and succeed. So I'm excited to watch you continue to grow your business and grow it to the level of success that you want to have as a business owner. So,
yeah, I appreciate it. And I think what you said there too, the level of success, it's obviously it's always kind of changing, but like you said earlier, build the business around the life you want. Don't change your life. Some
guys want 50 employees, some want 5, some don't want any.
Yep.
If that's your goal, it's still success if you reach it.
Exactly. If you've got what you want at the end of the day and everybody's happy.
Yep, 100%, man. Well, Jon, again, thank you so much. Listeners, glad to be back. Felt amazing. Literally, if I was telling Jon, it's my favorite part of the week doing these interviews. It lights me up, gets me excited. I've been hearing a few comments from time to time in our Facebook messages, and we even got an email about some insights they learned from the business, from the podcast that helped them with their business. I actually got a book recommendation this weekend. So I ordered a new book, started reading that this week. I think it's going to be a good one. So thank you for that little bit of interaction. Guys, the same way you want your customers to give you reviews for Google, I want you to give us some reviews. So get on Spotify, get on Apple, get on YouTube, review, subscribe. Send me a message, man. I just love hearing from you guys. Let me know that it's making an impact. Let me know you're looking forward to the episodes. That drives us to keep moving the show forward. So until next week, guys, we're in the Midwest. So Jon and I are going to say, stay warm.
Yeah. Next week, 50 degrees in Iowa.
I don't even know what it is here. But we're going to be in Florida the first week in February. And while I'm looking forward to the weather, I'm not looking forward to Disney. I guess I am a little bit, but it'll be fine.
They've had snow down there more than we've had. So
my buddy lives in Pensacola. He got 6 inches.
We haven't had 6 inches at all yet this year. We had a half inch last night.
I told him that's the first time his wife's seen 6 inches since they left Illinois.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Oh, and on that note, guys, have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday.